What's up, 49er fans? I'm Jason Aponte. That is Kyle Posey. This is 49ers Talk, a All Niners Nation edition. KP, I think this is like the first time that you and I have done a show like this one-on-one, but we've been on other shows like when Christian McCaffrey breaking news, I think was the last time. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, I think we might have done some draft stuff too, but yeah, we're talking. It feels like years, honestly.
Bro, and you and I talk every single day, so it's kind of like, man, like why haven't we made this happen? But for everybody that's here, obviously, the big boss at Niners Nation. I put his YouTube channel in the description. If you're not subscribed, you're missing out. Even if the NFL demonetizes all of our attempts to try to educate the fans, Kyle's still putting out really good stuff. So you guys should definitely check that out as well too. All right, KP. Kyle Shanahan talked today, and the overall theme of this episode is some data points and some things that obviously I've seen on film. And what Kyle Shanahan talked about today was more about the running game. And how I want to start this is I want to point out some numbers, and I want you to tell me what these numbers mean to you given the context and the film, right? Okay. So the San Francisco 49ers currently sit, and this is not normal for a 49ers offense, currently sit 28th in the league with explosive play rate, which is 5.7%. Essentially, an explosive play is anything over 15 plus yards. That's the way that we're going to use this as a qualifier. As far as run explosive plays, hold on to your hats. The San Francisco 49ers are 31st with a 0.0 explosive run rate. And the longest run this season is from Mac Jones and Christian McCaffrey, tied for 13. Their passing game, 5.7%, is where that you get that from. KP, what would you say? Because Kyle Shanahan said it felt like it's getting close and it's one play away, and it does feel like that. But if I would have told you that Mac Jones has the longest rush through 2 weeks, let's say fill in the blank, you would say?
Not great, Bob. Not great. It's kind of confusing watching them because there are plays where like two offensive linemen just don't know who to block. So they look out of whack. So on one play, on Sky Moore's lone play, he misses a block. So Christian McCaffrey might have had an explosive run right there, but if the receivers aren't blocking, you have no chance. So it's weird. I just think there are a lot of new moving parts, and they basically just don't know what to do. It's early on in the season. They also don't really run behind their best player, which is kind of weird. We're seeing more runs toward the right with like Christian McCaffrey and Dominic Puny, but all of their best gains, like design runs anyway, are right behind Trent Williams. So maybe you run behind your Hall of Famer and you might have better luck too.
I mean, that seems like something that's simplistic, but sometimes let's dumb football down to those things. I agree 100%. Now, something that I thought was interesting with Kyle Shanahan, what he talked about he talked about, we're a block away here, but also two high safety shells. And that's essentially what Brandon Staley's defense is, right? Everything is keep everything in front of you. That's how you can contain the run, and you don't allow explosives over your head. Now, does that change this week when they face Arizona? Well, that's kind of something that I've been looking at as well too. And KP, if I'm wrong, at any point, make sure you correct me here. Look defensively right now. It turns out that the Arizona Cardinals are running a too high safety look, whether it's man or whether it's zone. It says cover 2 man right now is 3%. Cover 2 zone itself is 12%. But cover 3, 4, and 6 are, 3 different things, right? There's 3 deep secondary members in cover 3. There's 4 deep members in cover 4. And then, cover 6 is quarter, half. Does that trend break this week against the Arizona Cardinals, who seem to be playing safeties, a little bit further up and really didn't give much up against Chuba Hubbard?
Yeah, I would imagine not. No, like that's just not the case. I think it's Petzig is who the DC is. He kind of just does that. He lives in zone coverage. He probably will load the box, like crowd the line. So Seattle didn't do that at all. And
Nope.
New Orleans really didn't as much, but they did a little more. So I guess just kind of take that for what it's worth. But I think the Cardinals have a plan and they know what they're going to do. Why would you, right? Until like you're actually getting beaten. So I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to force, limit the explosives, make you win 4, 5, 6 yards at a time. And I mean, it's a lot hard to generate offense when you can do that. So I would be surprised because, as Kyle Shanahan said, when you do load the box, if McCaffrey makes one guy miss, which he did on back-to-back plays last game, you're asking for it.
And I'm glad that you brought that up because Seattle's defensive front turns out is very good because that you saw what they've done in back-to-back weeks, right? Like that wasn't a 1 week thing. And initially going into the season, I'm worried about Seattle based on the sum of their parts on the defensive line. Mike McDonald, who has been, a master at designing things as well too. Now, the second week, obviously with New Orleans, they do load the box a little bit more, but this isn't something new to Kyle Shanahan. It's not like he's waking up and looking around like, oh my God, they're loading the box. What are we supposed to do? But what's funny is the 49ers are facing a lighter box than they ever have. Like 8+ defenders in the box. Christian McCaffrey is at the bottom of the league in that. So do you consider anything like, can two things be true? Christian McCaffrey is still not exactly where he needs to be, and there is some maybe deficiencies in the run blocking scheme because it seems like through 2 weeks the 49ers pass protection is far ahead of the 49ers run blocking somehow. Oh, you're muted again.
Mac Jones had all day to throw on like countless dropbacks, so the pass protection is definitely better, or I guess you say more further along. And like I mentioned, some of the blocking schemes, it just looks off. It looks like people are still trying to learn what to do on the fly. Remember, like Trent Williams doesn't play in the preseason, so technically that was his second preseason game, and honestly, it looks like it. But at the same time, I mean, you can say that it's not a stacked box, but those safeties are probably flying up as soon as they see runs. So why it might not look like that pre-snap, by the time the ball snapped, they might be within 5, 6, 7 yards in the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, so I think it's for me, like the take that I have about it is a few things in a row, right? Like there is some deficiencies run blocking, right? Like Jake Brendel was excellent, the best run blocker on Sunday somehow, and then the worst pass defender, and depending on the metrics and depending on who you ask and everything. And then Christian McCaffrey just does seem like he is rounding into shape, and it does feel like he is about to break one. Like it does feel like he's getting there. Again, an explosive. They have two 13-yard runs. One of them just happens to be from Mac Jones, which is not how you draw it up. But an explosive run is 15 yards. So I'm sure that it's coming, and I'm sure that there's going to be like this time where the levee breaks. But the reason that I guess I'm so bullish on the 49ers offense into this one is the 49ers are going to be able to pass the ball very well in this game against the Arizona Cardinals, given all of those injuries on the back end. And Juwan Jennings will probably be feeling a little bit better. I have a feeling like, and I'm not really jumping out on a limb here, KP, you know this. I have a feeling that it's really going to be a big Ricky Pearsall game. That could back off the Arizona Cardinals and put them in a position where they can't be as close to the line of scrimmage as they'd like to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think just watching the Saints game, so Mac Jones had a few different opportunities where he could have hit Juwan Jennings. He could definitely hit Ricky Pearsall on some routes. So as we're talking about, loading the box and getting the ground game going, once you saw, okay, Will Johnson not practicing all week, another cornerback went on IR, like they're going to be
Melton,
down.
Garrett Williams, yeah.
Yeah. So when you're down dudes against a Kyle Shanahan offense, regardless of who's at quarterback, they're probably going to chuck it around. I think Mac Jones having as many attempts as he did last week, that just kind of tells you everything, right? Like Kyle really trusts this guy to run his offense, and knowing how close they were to hitting on multiple plays last week between Jennings and Pearsall, I can only imagine what they're going to do this week against the Cardinals defense that let Bryce Young go off. Like he was able to do pretty much whatever he wanted to. I know the game was kind of out of hand in the second half, but like they're still playing defense. They're still trying to get stops. I do wonder how big of a difference. Like I know he wasn't on the injury report today, so getting Jordan Watkins back will be huge, right? Like they really just haven't been able to do anything down the field explosion-wise because they really don't have that threat. But I think that's where a guy like Watkins can really make a difference. Obviously, they're a week away from getting Demarcus Robinson back, but last week they were using Juwan Jennings on these clear-out routes, and that defenses aren't going to respect him because they know like he's just not a deep threat. So just being able to have that speed threat will go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Almost 10 minutes in here, guys. Thank you guys for joining. Almost 40 people in here. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, check out that description, and make sure you're subscribed to Kyle Posey's YouTube channel as well. I wanted to ask you this. I was looking at those numbers in which I've listed the 49ers at the bottom of the league in explosive plays. Now, if I would have told you that 3 of the 5 teams that are at the bottom of the league in explosive plays are the 49ers, the Bengals, and the Eagles, who are actually last in the league in explosive plays, 4.3%, 2.6 on runs, 1.7 on passes, what would you say to that? I think you're muted again. Yeah.
They're just how these first 2 weeks went in general, right? You understand like the 49ers are going to be something. They're going to be, whether it's running the ball effectively and then play action passes off that. But I mean, from Brock Purdy's injury to George Kittle being out, Kyle Shanahan's kind of had to pick and choose what he can and can't do. So for them to be effectively being able to play 7-on-7 the way that they're passing the ball all over the place, but not being able to run the ball efficiently like we're used to seeing them, it just doesn't make much sense. So let me throw it back to you. Like, would it have been more of a surprise if I were to tell you, okay, the 49ers, even with Mac Jones, are effectively like a top 10 passing unit, or knowing that Christian McCaffrey's back, knowing that Trent Williams is back, they still can't run the ball?
I think I'm very surprised at that, especially with the Saints. You know, like, again, Brandon Staley was in the building last year, and the 49ers have clashed with him before. He's clashed with Kyle Shanahan before, right? When, 2020, when the Rams had a top 10 defense during COVID and everything as well, too. I was very shocked that it just seemed like there were moments where it felt like the running game in this game on Sunday was getting going. Christian McCaffrey's hitting some good runs. Brian Robinson's even getting there, but it just felt like, I don't know, either Kyle truly trusts Mac Jones to a degree that we have not seen him, trust a quarterback in a game that they've been winning the entire time, right? Like, essentially, when you look at how many times Brock Purdy has thrown the ball 39 times, isn't it always in a comeback attempt? Isn't it always like, him trying to throw himself back into the game? They were ahead and throwing the football. I wonder if that's either Kyle just saying, man, I really love Mac and what he's able to do with this offense, and I feel confident in that, or look, this isn't working right now, and I want to be able to move the football, and this is our best way to. So I'll throw that back to you. What do you think it was? Do you think that it was that they were looking at the defensive fronts and seeing what they were like, we're not going to be able to get it, and just having a feel for the game and noticing that your run offense isn't exactly, humming like the way that it should, because I think I can let the Seattle game go. I think they were a fantastic defense. I think I could let that go, especially coming off the week with Christian McCaffrey and the injury. This one was a little bit more surprising, especially though, Christian McCaffrey had 19 touches. Like, you should have been able to get the run game going.
Right. And at the same time, they're finding ways to get him involved in the passing game. Like, he had a couple of big third down conversions, which is huge. Obviously, he had the touchdown in the end zone. So I think it's just Kyle being attentive, right? That's him not fitting a square hole into a round peg. Like, it's not him trying to do the same thing over and over, even though it's not working, because even though they did have some of those big third down conversions, it was like 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11. They're behind the sticks constantly. So you would think maybe like passing the ball more so you're not behind the chains consistently will go a long way. But I mean, it's Kyle Shanahan's scheme. Like, there are players open. So I understand at the same time why you're going to pass as often as they did, even against a team like the Saints. So I wouldn't really – I'm not too worried about it. I still think it should be – we're talking about a backup quarterback, right? We're talking about a backup quarterback who is throwing to a second-year pro who's very good. Ricky Pearsall is very good. John Jennings, who missed pretty much all of August. So there's no like rapport between those two. And then who is the third wide receiver? Like, it's Kendrick Bourne, somebody who they just signed. So I think, I mean, when you're looking at it from that sense, for them to get 26 points against the Saints on the road and come away with a win, like, that should be viewed as a positive. But we're so used to seeing them click on every cylinder and drop 30, 35, 40, like in 2023, where like the expectations are that high. So I think it does say something.
Yeah, and I think that I'm fine with this because I've contextualized this win as, forget the opponent. The 49ers won a game on the road in which that would have been a loss in 2024. They still haven't played their best football. They can still clean some things up. And given Kyle Shanahan's history, the 49ers, even though there's been seasons where they start 3-0, and by the way, that this is a chance for them for only the 6th time since 1990 to, start 3-0, which almost seems insane to think about, especially during the Jim Harbaugh years and even those other years. But what I'm thinking is, it takes Kyle Shanahan's offense a little while for it to click. Like, even think back to 2019 in Tampa Bay. That game wasn't exactly an offensive masterclass. They get like a Richie James wheel route touchdown. Jameis throws them, a pick six, and that's the way that they kind of won that game. It took them a little while. I feel like they hit their stride. Carolina, they start to, really run through people. 2023, they kind of hit the ground running. I think that's the anomaly season when it comes to Kyle Shanahan and his offenses. But generally, as the coach of the 49ers, it takes the offense a little while to get going. So I'm starting to look at this as 2 wins. You still haven't played your best football. Your best football is ahead of you. Your offense hasn't clicked yet. it just feels like it's this close, and it may be this week in which the secondary is really banged up, and the 49ers have shown that they'll throw the football with Mac Jones. And, Ricky Pearsall, 17, what is it, 17 yards average depth of target, all 8 of his catches for 8 first downs. I think this might be the week that the 49ers offense really busts out, even if the 2-week sample size would tell you otherwise with what Arizona's given up as far as explosives.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Just talking in terms of explosives, right? This is probably an opportunity with the banged up secondary, home opener. So Shanahan's going to show out. Like he has an ego. Like we know that, right? And regardless of who's at quarterback in home openers, they tend to do very, very well, and they tend to throw it, just sling it around. Again, just going back to last week, seeing how Bryce Young was able to connect with Ted McMillan, who we haven't talked about. Obviously, he's a different target than the type of receiver Pearsall or even Jennings is, but he had 100 yards. He had a 40-yarder too. I think that's
and he's the only guy.
Yes, like you had one person to take away and you still could not do that. That says a lot. So Bryce Young threw the ball 55 times last week. So they're throwing it all around. I would imagine it's a similar game plan. They have a tough front. Like the Cardinals invested in their front four. So it's not going to be an easy task for the 49ers to run the ball. Or I guess I would say a divisional opponent is probably not when you want to try to get a struggling running game going that has been struggling. So why not keep force feeding the ball to McCaffrey underneath, right? Get Pearsall isolated on safeties, Jennings on a linebacker. So there are plenty of different ways. I wouldn't put anything past him, and he's just a very creative person. So,
yeah, again, I run on vibes. Facts are cool, data's cool, film is cool, but I feel like this is going to be the week that we come into this. I wanted to kind of flip it to how the Cardinals have their explosive plays and what the 49ers have done on defense to limit explosives. We've got the Arizona Cardinals at 7.5%. Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, Kyler Murray with his legs, which, we'll talk about obviously through here, where the 49ers have to slow him down. 1.7%, and they're 20th in the league in explosives and runs. 5.8, they're 25th in passing. And the 49ers are 10th in the NFL with an 8.2 explosive play rate allowed since, as of week 2. 0.8%, which is rushing. That's 11th. 7.4 in 14. This one kind of feels like, it's almost like a styles make fight type of argument, because you look at those numbers and you look at it that way. But with the way that the first 2 weeks have gone, teams have really targeted Renardo Green. And what do the 49ers do with Trey McBride, who, we saw Jair Brown down in the box, big nickel. Do you necessarily want him covering Trey McBride? Do you think Upton Stout can? I would be a little bit tentative of that. This is the part of this game, not only making it divisional, but looking at the individual matchups and the way these two teams match up, that kind of makes me feel like this game is going to be one of those annoying Arizona Cardinals 49ers games. You muted again.
It wouldn't be a 49ers Cardinals game if it wasn't an annoying game where they just don't go away and you're wondering like, geez, like how long is it going to be like this? So they're not going anywhere. I feel like Kyler is going to probably find a way to scramble his way into first downs. Marvin Harrison, you talk about Renardo Green, Marvin Harrison's probably going to have a big player. So, and that's just the structure of the defense. They're comfortable with Renardo Green on one-on-one routes outside the numbers. They're going to take those low percentage throws. There are times where he's going to get beaten because that's what happens to cornerbacks in the NFL. There are also times where he's going to make a play. And I thought he made plenty of plays over the course of week 1 and even week 2. So the start of the game was rough for Renardo last week, but you didn't really see that after the fact. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it works out. I'm curious to see how aggressive they are as far as targeting Harrison down the field on that side of the ball. But at the same time, Connor seems like he's been a thorn in the 49ers side too. So there's a lot of different ways it can go. Salah's back though. Like he's the ultimate equalizer. And I mean, how night and day this defense looks just through 2 games as opposed to all of last season. It looks like a completely different unit. Like Nick Bosa's not lining up in the same spot every time. You're actually seeing blitzes. You're seeing people line up in different areas, not the same cover 3 every time. So, I mean, there's a reason they're having as much success, and I think we can point to Salah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good way to go because, I wrote an article, obviously, for NinersNation.com. By the way, don't yell at me. I didn't name the site, because 49ers fans get mad about Niners Nation and Niner Empire. I didn't come up with any of that. Like I have no bearing on it. But last week it was very much a lot of, or week 1, I should say, it was very much a lot of cover one man with blitzes on third down and fourth down and everything as well too, and a lot of cover three. Well, now we go into week 2, and now we've got the 49ers sitting at that 20% mark that they were cover one man, which is obviously single high safety and man everywhere else. Cover zero, they 2%. So there was times where they completely, jailbroke and tried to, get to the quarterback, Spencer Rattler, who actually had a really good game on Sunday. Zone stays the same, about 38%. It went up a little bit from 30%. Cover 4, 17%. Cover 6 went up 12%. Is there anything that you could really point to as like ideology, like why or rhyme or reason why, you didn't run cover 6 much against the Seattle Seahawks? You pretty much just kept it man. Is it more just, listen, we didn't really care about Sam Darnold, or, this is something that we saw on tape that we feel like we needed to get to, or an in-game adjustment?
Yeah, I think it was the in-game adjustment, just as far as like Saleh wants to be a quarters guy. Like that's what he lived on over the past 4 years. But Upson Stout had a couple busts early on, and you're not going to put him in a position to fail. So, okay, cool. I will revert back to cover 3. I'll revert back to cover 1. And that's what we saw a lot of when they do want to go zone. At least when they against the Saints, and it was only for a few snaps, but they would put Jair Brown in. So let somebody who's comfortable playing zone run zone. If you want to be multiple, you can just blitz up in the south, and that's what they did last week. So I thought it was a good job of, and we're talking about being attentive. So the coach realized, okay, my player is not comfortable doing this. I'm not going to force him to do something he's not comfortable with. So I would point to just personnel, right? And Siegel is a guy who, generally speaking, like man-to-man is like the only thing you probably could get away with it or with running at this point. Again, he's a day 3 pick. Upton Stout, a day 3 pick. There was always going to be growing pains. The fact that there hasn't been, or there's been so few to this point, is probably a compliment or just a hat tip to how the 49ers defensive coaching staff has been. But that's why I would just imagine the personnel.
Yeah, and again, like, you have to have a feel for the game, right? It can't just be the book. I think I heard Liam Cohen talking after the Bengals game, and they asked him why he went for it instead of taking the field goal, and he's like, always go for it, always go for it. And I even heard it's hilarious to hear this guy, make this point, and it was Jason Garrett during the Football in America, pregame, and he said, you got to have some feel, man. He was like, you can't just go with the book, and I was just like, man, this is pretty funny to, like hearing this like from him. It's like, you got to have some feel for the game. It's got to be a little bit of both, but yeah, like some of that stuff is like, when you look at it and you look at the raw numbers, if you don't contextualize it with the game flow, watching how things go, you probably would see yourself, just saying, hey, this is what the plan was the entire time. No, like you have to make those in-game adjustments, and I think that making them on the fly like that, because it didn't seem like Saleh made those adjustments like out of the half, right? What we saw when D'Amico was here, right? I think you can attest to this, is like in the beginning, it's almost like feeling out an opponent, and then when he gets into the half, all of a sudden he has the adjustments. It feels like Saleh's able to adjust on the fly, and I think, again, the biggest acquisition, obviously, for this defense was having him and understanding how to use his personnel and get his guys in good spots.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to have the front 4 that they do, right? Like yeah. Nick Bosa, you have a top 11 first-round pick, Mykel Williams, who's playing like it. And I think people need to recognize that, because he's not lighting up the box score with, quarterback pressure, which is a popular thing that people want to talk about. No, he's pushing the pocket. He's doing exactly what you wanted. I think it's also important to understand that Bryce Huff, speed demon, right? So you have a front 4 who can win in a variety of ways. You have coverage guys like Lenore is leading the league, or is the top 5 at least in like yards per coverage snap. So you have a quality corner on both sides of the ball. You have safeties who are not just giving up the big play. And I think that allows you to be multiple, to do a lot. Again, blitzing, like he's blitzing at an insane rate comparative to last year. So being able to do that, you're able to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands. So you're basically eliminate some mistakes. It's really fun to watch him play like the chess match throughout the game, because he comes in with a plan, and maybe that plan doesn't work on the first drive, but he adapts and he changes his personnel. And over the course of the game, you can kind of see him be right more often than he's wrong, which is really cool.
All right, we got like 5 more minutes, KP. Is that cool?
Sure.
All right, perfect. So overall, obviously, watching the defensive tape is a joy, just because nothing is constant, and it felt like, and if I'm wrong, again, correct me on this. Like, it felt like in 2019, it was just pretty much, hey, we got 4, we're gonna send them everything cover 3. It definitely doesn't feel like that. Like when we heard of the evolution of Saleh's defense, think this is it, and again. you may have some times where when you're in man, this is the NFL, you're gonna get beat. But we'll take those chances when we're rushing the passer in different ways. When you see Michael dropping in the coverage, or Yetur Gross-Matos dropping in the coverage, or I think Yetur Gross-Matos is the one that's been flying under the radar further than anybody on this defensive line, because everybody is so excited about what Bosa's doing and Michael. But Yetur Gross-Matos in this NASCAR package has been like very much unlocked in different ways. But it's really refreshing to like watch this tape, because it does feel like there is no single plan, right? And it's far more exotic with the looks and with the way that they're sending pressures and everything. It's like, how do we find a way to make sure that Robert Saleh doesn't get head coaching interviews, because it's sure to happen again this offseason?
I mean, they were lucky to even have him for this year alone. So the fact that they're getting him for a year, they should be thankful. 2 years feels greedy, honestly. And just seeing that after 2 games, it's like, okay, he's not going to be around for a while. You talk about like the waves that they're able to come in are at you. So Alfred Collins, like he played a very good game. But Jordan Elliott and Clea Davis, like the other D tackles, like they're holding their own too. So like they're getting production from legitimately every person who steps onto the field. Samo probably won them the game. I know not literally, but in the week one, like he was one of their most effective defensive linemen. And this past week, we saw Gross-Matos have a couple of pressures. You saw Bryce Huff obviously have the sack fumble. But yet another play where like the result might not have been, it might not have turned out like the way they wanted to, but like he's pushing the pocket, he's getting around the tackles. They can come at you and beat you in so many different ways. And you're just seeing the change, and from coverages, from the blitz numbers, just from how quickly they are able to get off the field. I mean, their third down numbers are so much better even through 2 games. So, yeah, I mean, if they're able to keep Saleh around after this, lotto ticket. They don't deserve it, is I guess what I should say, because Saleh is going to be another coach somewhere else, I would imagine.
He doesn't want to stick around for Mike McDaniel to return?
Future OC Mike McDaniel.
Poor Mike McDaniel. Like I feel so bad. And, again, KP, I appreciate your time, bro. Like, I know how busy you are and everything, but I find it funny about Mike McDaniel. Like, these press conferences that we found quirky and funny, they're not quirky and funny anymore. He's like, when you win the game, you win the game. And when you lose the game, you lose the game. I'm just like, oh my God, he is smoked right now. It's done. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately. And now Thursday, which is tomorrow, it's going to be bad. National TV. I don't care if Ed Oliver and Milano aren't playing. This is going to be bad on national television. And then Tua is out here telling Josh, I'm not Josh Allen. He does. I'm like, dude, like everyone stop talking. Like everyone just stop talking.
40-0. It's going to be a bloodbath for sure.
40-0. I'll give you, right before we take it out of here, I'll give you your chance to make a snarky Yankee comment.
I haven't seen the score yet. I'm sure they've allowed some runs to the Twins.
They were up 10-1 yesterday, and I look up at the score and it's 10-8, and I was like, dude, I just want to watch Alien Earth. It's 2-2 right now.
I was gonna say it was 2-0 before I logged in. Wait, who's
if you guys
pitching?
don't,
I don't even know his pitch. Oh, it's
if you guys don't know, like I'll literally text KP like, "Hey man, what are you thinking for today?" And he'll be like, maybe the Yankees bullpen doesn't blow a game, and I'll be like, "Oh, thanks." Like I appreciate, I wasn't thinking about that all night, but
such a low hanging fruit.
Yeah, it is, but it's again, like I told you, it's the lowest hanging fruit is sometimes the sweetest. But KP, appreciate you, man. Let everybody know where they can follow you. Again, if you guys are not subscribed to KP's YouTube channel, check the description. You have to be. There's a bunch of film breakdowns on there. Free my man, and from the NFL's shackles of demonetization, by the way.
Yeah, on Twitter, KP_show. Just type in Kyle Posey on YouTube. I have an offensive one that I'm going to try to upload. I think I might have found a workaround. I'm going to let you know who knows? But I put my picture in there. So hopefully, that we can fight the system.
My God. Well, you know what? You have to think about the poor NFL because they are so poor. They don't make enough money. I think we're just being very selfish, when we think about this. My $8 that I was going to make on my video,
right,
we have to make sure that we give it up. So, hey, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Again, 65 people in here, 30 minutes. We're going to keep it short, but appreciate you guys. Check out NinersNation.com tomorrow. I'll have an article with, a lot of details and a lot of the talking points that I have, about why I think the 49ers offense is primed to break out this week against Arizona. Shout out to all you guys. Make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and as always, go Niners. Have a great night, guys.